Ready.
Hi, great to be here this evening. Thank you, Scott, for hosting me. My name is Maria. I am a mother of three, currently living in Uganda. I've been working as a school administrator for the last 8 years. Looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Hi, Mariah. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I'm very, very happy that we can have this space and use this time to really learn more about your background as an educator, school administrator, and yeah, and your understandings and your thoughts regarding this concept of global citizenship. And so to get us started, I'd love for us to hear a little bit more about your own journey as an educator and school administrator. This is about your professional background. You can think about it like various milestones that you came upon that helped inform you as a teacher, educator, and like why did your why did your path lead you to this moment?
Thank you, Scott. I think it wasn't pre-planned initially, but I come from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher. My four sisters are teachers. I was the only one that had actually diverted to a different career. I don't want to call it destiny, but I found myself back to supposedly where I'm supposed to be. So it's not like it was pre-planned, but yeah, I am here and I am happy that I'm here right now.
Wow. Yeah. So would you say that like you were kind of resisting going down that same path because you had this family background and everyone's like, let's be a teacher. I'm going to be a teacher. And you said, no, no,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah, because in Uganda, teachers in the past, teachers were respectable people, but over time, things have changed and they're underpaid. Their welfare is always wanting. They get to moments where they're literally begging, they're borrowing everywhere. So it doesn't paint the right picture of the profession. So we grow up hating the profession because of what teachers look like, because of what teachers are taken through, because of what teachers are. Yeah. So I resisted it. Like I kind of resisted it so hard. My mother kept telling me you should go to a teacher training school. And I told her, never, I will never be a teacher. Because I saw her struggling to bring us up. I saw her struggling to fend for us. I saw her struggling to pay her fees, yet she had a job. And then I've watched my big sisters struggle when they even had jobs. So, yeah, not that I didn't want it, but because of what comes with it, it really puts you down and you don't aspire to be what other people are because they're not doing well. Yeah, just that.
Yeah. Well, it's clear that your mother had such a big influence on you just by her
Hmm.
encouraging you to go down that path. Why do you think, like for her, for your mother, she thought that you would be a great teacher, or that she really believed that that would be your path? Like, is there something about education that she really believed in, right? Despite the fact that they are underpaid and that they are not given the credit and respect that they deserve.
I think for her, away from the welfare and the pay, she's proud to be an educator and she would love to see her children be educators, regardless of the circumstances. So for her, she really felt like, yeah, you could be a great teacher. You're a smart child and you can do this. But because of what comes with it, I just resisted it because, not because I hated the profession, but because of what comes with it. So yeah, just that.
Yeah, I think, the fact that your mother had this pride of being a teacher is really important, right? Because regardless of what outside, like society would tell people, especially your mom, that like, oh, it doesn't really matter, or what is it that you're really doing? What kind of influence that you have? She knew at her core, this is making a difference. And I know my students and I want to serve them for the greater good. And I think that many teachers would agree that that is a driving force for them, right?
Hmm.
To see their student learn, their eyes light up, to know that they're supported. And so, I think that's really important. For you now, what was it like? What was it that like got you considering this pathway? Because you were very resistant, and then something must have changed, right? Was there a particular moment
Yeah.
where you said, "Well, let me give this a try, or let me consider this," and then, the rest is history. But what was that moment that allowed you to entertain that possibility?
When I got chance to join school is when I got married, and my husband had that same year started over school as an investor, not as a teacher, as an investor. And after a few months of looking at what was happening at the school, we both agreed that it needed better administration. And I come from a background of business administration, accounting. So we had to sit down and agree on who is going to actually leave your job or your other business to come and manage the school. So I came to basically do with the business mind, to do administration of this business. And a little time into it, I think I fell in love with the profession. And that is how I ended up where I am today. I fell in love with the process, with the children, with how they're handled, and also an inner desire of understanding what is done there, and uh, conceptualizing the impact that you would want to see in the children and the after effect of us doing it the right way. So little by little, I got into it, and I started looking at what is not even going right vis-a-vis the product that we have defined that we want to achieve at the end of the year. And then I got involved. And when I got involved, I couldn't get myself out of there. So yeah, I think then destiny caught me there, and I finally got to where I was supposed to belong.
Yeah, I think that very much sounds like the case, right? Where you saw this issue, right? You very
Mm-hmm,
practically thinking, okay, this school is not what it should be. It's not functioning in the
mm-hmm,
way that it should be operating. And
mm-hmm,
you brought these skills, this knowledge, that could really help the school out, and then decided to make that impact. And you said that your background was in business and accounting.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, how did you get into business and accounting? I imagine you probably went to school for it, or you worked in other places. Like, could you share a little bit more about how you got to acquire that kind of knowledge that would then translate over into school administration?
The Ugandan education system requires us to study 3 years of kindergarten, 7 years of primary school, 6 years of high school, and then after that, you can go to university. So at my undergraduate, I first did a certificate in advanced business administration uh, at university. Then I joined my bachelor's, that is a 3 year course in accounting. So I come with that and different experiences from different places because I had worked in 3 other places before joining the school. I had worked at the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, data analysis. Um, I had worked at a hospital, finance administration. I had also, prior to the school, worked with development initiatives. It is a non-government organization based in Bristol, UK, but it works in different parts of Africa around donor aid, budget financing, around research, policy research, and a few other aspects of kicking people out of poverty. So I came with all that experience, but then I had to retrieve my undergraduate knowledge to come and implement the business mind into the school and see that we are actually uh, achieving the return on investment. That is basically why I went there, not because I wanted to understand how the curriculum needs, what content is designed, how is it actually evaluated, do we do the standardized tests, how do we measure success or performance, how do we interpret student outcomes, nothing around academic. It was typical of the business mind. But when I got there, I realized to manage it better, you needed to understand every other aspect of it. You need to understand what teachers are teaching and what they ought to achieve at the end of a particular period. You needed to understand the aspects, the different aspects of every other subject and what outcomes we expect at the end of the day. You had to get involved in curriculum content and, redesign and design um, to see that we achieve what we want to achieve. We had to do aspects of projects because our curriculum doesn't really allow for that. But then I found myself delving into that and navigating challenges around a typically theoretical curriculum to bring in an aspect of practical, because I had been exposed in the UK, in South Africa. I had seen children learn, and I wanted to replicate that into this place. But it was hard. But over the years, we have gone slowly by slowly to bring up a few aspects of the other curriculums that I've seen work to put together with ours, and we have seen great change. So yeah, I ended up going to the other side. So these days I am more of academic around content, instruction design, and then I come back to administration a little bit.
Well, your school is so lucky to have someone with the knowledge and experience that you have. You talked about the business mindset and how that was really important in terms of kind of laying the groundwork and getting
Mm-hmm.
organized within the school so that they could then really effectively address all the other components that are needed within curriculum, lesson planning, the professional development with the teachers, the family engagements as well. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. And I'm sure that like, with the business, you need both to be working at the same time. And oftentimes we kind of think of schools as just, places where teachers, right, just teach, right? But there's so much more that happens behind the scenes. And so it's interesting
Exactly.
that you found yourself, with all of your working experience, um, in many ways behind the scenes, right? Looking at the data, looking at the accounting statistics, and then suddenly there's this transition point where no
Mm-hmm.
longer could you just be behind the scenes. Like within a school, everything's pretty upfront, right? Everyone's kind of walking around. And I would imagine the school, is probably smaller than like that of a hospital or the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, right? So the scale
Yeah,
itself is different. Everything is very unique. And
yeah.
so, like my question is like, how long have you been at this school? Has it always been just this one school, or have you gone to different schools? Yeah.
It has been at the same school since 2015. But last year, the school actually opened up another branch, but it has been in the same school. But
Mm.
I've been engaging with so many other people at the national level, because I also uh, deputized the executive director at the proprietors of Uganda private institutions. So we share a lot at national level with different other directors, proprietors of primary schools and secondary schools. So, we discuss these things, what you're doing different from what I'm doing at my school, and what benefits more, and what, results that I have seen. And if you really like what the other person is doing, then you take it and also, teach your teachers and see that you better, because our curriculum is not really the best. So you really have to get aspects of others and, co-join to make sure you get a good product. So that's what I have been learning from other people at the association, but also sharing a lot with my teachers. They're very knowledgeable, and also learning from other people and keeping on reading to understand. Actually, somewhere in 2022, I also did a course in ACE curriculum. It's the Accelerated Christian Education Curriculum. I think it comes from South Africa. There are aspects of it that I really wanted. It's very child-centered. It builds a child's independence, and I wanted to get that. And it builds a lot of strength and independence in reading, because the child from 4 years is taught how to read by themselves. And ours is very teacher centered. A teacher must stand there, get a piece of chalk, write on the board 6 times a day, and the child must write in the book. So it's tedious, it's tiring, it's exhausting for the children, but also for the teacher. They have to write and they have to mark books. At the end of the day, they're super, super exhausted. So I wanted to get those aspects of, okay, can we get, they call them paces, the books, where a teacher doesn't have to write on the chalkboard, where a kid builds the reading capability, that kind of thing. So it's been helpful. And I really think that at a particular point in time, our curriculum development center will consider a few things uh, to improve our curriculum, and also not exhaust the children and not exhaust the teachers as well.
Yeah, no, curriculum is so important, and understanding the needs of the children, and how they learn, that process of engaging with
Mhm.
them. And then, on your part, studying other curriculum, like looking outside of Uganda, or finding what works and how that can be applied into your own unique, school environment. I think that's really a great recipe for making these, changes that, will ultimately benefit the community itself. And, from 2015 when you started, and up until now, I'm sure there's been a lot of growth, right? There's been
Mhm.
changes implemented.
Yeah.
And so how would you like characterize the school in 2015, and then now how would you, characterize it now? Maybe just kind of highlighting like a few aspects of like what were the major issues, and then how have you seen those issues, evolve to where we are right now?
I think the biggest issues were around financing, first of all, and also around the skill sets that our teachers actually had. They need continuous development. They need you to actually push them. They need you to introduce new things, and also actually give them the opportunity to learn, but also the quality and the mindsets of the parents that we have has changed over time. Uh, and the numbers of the children and the children that we attract. At the moment, we attract even the refugees that come from South Sudan, from the DR Congo, and they come with no knowledge of English or Luganda, our native language. But we have been able to take them in and actually get immersed into the system, because it has those practical aspects that actually doesn't um, segregate language. It's about understanding that I'm going to put this to this and get this. And over time, they get to learn English and learn Luganda, and then they fit in. Most of the time, they're bigger than their classmates because they have been through war for particular years. So at first, it was really hard. But now, we just get them in and we don't get issues. We have actually empowered our teachers to do languages around the languages that they come knowing. They come speaking French, they speak Arabic, they speak, the local language from Burundi. So you must have at least languages that you can share with them. Swahili and our people, we have people in different places that can come in and help us. And that is how we teach them until when they actually get immersed into the system and learn how to flow with us. So I have seen the children change, the characteristic of the student body, the characteristic of the teachers that we actually uh, uh, employ at the school, the environment, the parents that come in. You mentioned somewhere about the family school partnerships. At first, it was so hard, dealing with a person who doesn't even appreciate that being anywhere part of the learning process is their responsibility. But as you grow and get better, you also attract parents that are at a better literate level, and they appreciate these things much better than those that have never been to school. And these are parents that you could ask to say, okay, you will pay this money, and they're not really complaining. But then as you start, you get every other parent, those that can afford, those that cannot afford. and those that don't think it is even worth the money that you're asking for, because this is a private school that must actually run with the fees that the children pay. So it's been evolving. We had 47 learners back in 2015, and we have 473 as we speak. So we have grown, and COVID hit us so bad. I think we would be over 500 or 600, but the 2 years of COVID, because we work in a suburban area, people are not permanently placed in these places. So they keep moving. And when COVID came, people lost their jobs and they had to move back to the rural areas. So we lost so many students in the transit from urban back to the rural areas, but we're catching up slowly. And I'm sure that over the next 2 to 3 years, we shall get where we want to get.
Wow. It just sounds like I'm sure like from 2015, each year has presented different challenges, like new growth, but like new students, different needs from those students from like the linguistic and like cultural backgrounds. The fact that,
Mm-hmm.
your teachers as well had to like learn new curriculum or new approaches or even like languages, like you said, right? Or the kind of
Yeah,
like enough of the language to create that sense that connection, that bridge with the students or their families.
the bonds. Yeah.
Those bonds are so important. And it's something that, through that process, you gain trust, you build this trust. So easy to lose that
Mm-hmm.
trust in a fraction of a second,
Yeah.
but you're constantly, trying to extend that hand and be as welcoming as possible. I can only imagine
Mm-hmm.
what the young people from like as refugees from South Sudan must have experienced and
Mm-hmm.
how that has disrupted many things in their life, as well as their own conception of like what is my future. And I often
Mm-hmm.
associate education, the act of studying, as kind of this ability to envision a new future for themselves or this goal, right? Sometimes that goal is as simple as I want to be able to read this book. And then when you look at that goal, there's actually nothing simple about it, right? Because there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that teachers and family and administrators have to do in collaboration to have that student want to learn and feel like they're making progress. And then the fact that your school is now at over 400 students compared to
Mm-hmm.
the 2015 number, like that's yeah, I mean, again, from the financial side, I mean, I'm sure that that required a lot of effort to scale and to accommodate. Like, what is the capacity of the school to even
Mm-hmm.
manage that number of students? So it just sounds like, whenever you probably get to a point where you feel like things have stabilized, right? We've reached our goal. Suddenly, the school has other plans, like the community, and then you have to reassess and create new plans for the future.
Yeah. Expansion doesn't stop.
Yeah, it does not stop at all. And how has it been like? So now that it's been many years that you've been working in this capacity as a school administrator, and you've had to learn so much, right? I mean, of course, you were there with the goal of applying your knowledge and experience in business and accounting, and you certainly have done that and continue to. But you're seeing, the kind of bigger picture of like what it means to run a school and to understand all of the different nuances. What would you say has been like, your evolution as a school leader? Like, how have you like in what ways have you grown and like stepped into leadership in your current
Mm-hmm.
context? Like, how have you changed or grown as a leader, I guess is my question.
Um, I'll say I think the first thing that you get in your growth as a school administrator is empathy. You learn to feel for others. You learn, to you create a desire to feel like the parent who gave you this learner. If I was the parent, would I really be happy with my child doing this? you feel for the refugee student that has just walked into school, and how are they feeling in a new environment with new people in a different language. So the empathy just pours down on you, and that is what actually pushes you into all the other corners of the school, because you want to make the parent happy, you want to make the students happy, you want to make sure your teachers and the other people that support us happy. So it's about empathy, because everything is increasingly interdependent on the other. If the support team is not happy, the teachers will not be happy. If the teachers are not happy, the parents will not be happy. If the parents are not happy, the learners will not be happy. So it's like an ecosystem that keeps running, and you in the middle, you get absorbed into every other, you know, ray that comes into the middle, and it all pours down on you. So I think it's empathy, and you have to have skills around critical thinking and problem solving. Uh, you know, I think I would say community collaborations. You need people to work with to run a school, inside and external of the school. Uh, it keeps on growing to local levels, to national levels, sometimes to global levels. And I think over time you realize that you get to a corner of a cross-cultural awareness. You get to appreciate other people's cultures, other people's beliefs. And if you don't allow yourself to cross over there, then you cannot be able to manage these ones that come and are different. So that kind of inclusion in your mind, and then a lot of care and compassion. I think at first I thought I couldn't take children. Like I couldn't stand them. They're very demanding. You have to be you have to be their body, soul, mind, like all of you. When you're teaching children, you can't be there partly. You really have to be there. And when you're all there, then you get what you want to get. So many aspects of you grow over time. And if you refuse to grow, then you cannot run the school.
You said so much, yeah, it's just so much truth about the realities and the demands of being a teacher, being a school leader. And I just thought it was so funny about you're like, oh, children are so demanding. It's true, right? But
Yeah,
they're
because they're
demanding because
young.
you're young. They need to learn. They're curious.
Yeah, they need to learn, and they need care, and they need compassion. You have to be creating that environment of social, emotional learning.
Mm.
I think they need to trust you. They need to know that you understand their challenges. They need to understand that you are there for them. So it's demand that they actually get from you. They put it up there, and you must give the supply. So you must be full and ready in your mind, in your body, in your soul, to deliver on the demand that they bring onto the table. And not that I'm complaining, but at first I couldn't think I could take that. Like I didn't have children then, and I was like, I cannot do babies. Like, but then right now, I would run to the first one that I see. Your heart pours out. You just get used to them and understand, okay, this one is crying because maybe one, two, three things, and you sort them and you're good. So it flows naturally after some time.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. That it just sound, the way that you speak about like all the various concerns that need to be had, and then the actions that are taken by leaders to have empathy, to recognize the kind of web of relations of like interconnectedness that we have, the interdependence, trying to think about everyone within this ecosystem, community collaborations, care, compassion. Like, yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it, Mariah. And it's just it's wonderful to hear how you also have grown from someone who thought I couldn't possibly do that. Children, no, like that's or little young people running around too much to
Yeah,
what can I do? Right. And like, yes, it's never it's a lot, but it's never too much. It's never unreasonable because, the child is just telling you what they need and they deserve that. And so like
yeah,
trying to provide for that in the way that is best. And I think thinking about it from like the finances, the kind of the behind the scenes systems and structures, sometimes like as educators, we don't think about that nearly enough. And actually, we're right now in a class, right? Because we're part of the same master's program at Harvard,
mm,
and we're taking this finance class. And a lot of people,
yeah,
including myself, are freaking out. I'm sure for yourself, Mariah, you're just kind of, very like calmly nodding your head and saying, "Yep, this is important." And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
let's just
You're
let's
right.
let's do it. You understand
Yeah.
because you've
Hmm.
lived it. You've lived it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, you were talking about how vital it is to be fully present when teaching children. I completely agree with that. And
Hmm.
you've looked into different curriculum, like the one from South Africa that you mentioned it was like more like child centric, and
Hmm.
really trying to understand how can we develop a full, human being, right? For them to maximize their potential, to bring that potential out. So, I feel like there's probably some connection point to this topic that I want to introduce, right? About global citizenship. Um, I was curious, um, is global citizenship a term that is used at your school? Or is it something that is talked about more broadly within Uganda in like the school system? Because, in my understanding, this notion of like really trying to bring out the full potential of a child, um, it plays into like their role on the global stage, right? Even if they never leave Uganda, if they never leave their town that they are from, their impact is still felt. But like, how has that concept maybe taken root or maybe not, in a larger perspective, and then also for yourself personally? Is it something that you think about or have like, grappled with?
Um, I have heard about this. I have read about it. I have shared about it at a personal level. Uh, I have not seen it anywhere mentioned in our curriculum or in our day-to-day things that we do at the school. There are small aspects of it, aspects of care, aspects of compassion, aspect of appreciating that there are other people out there that will speak about, not because they're curriculum based, but because it's a life skill and things that we must talk about regardless of curriculum or not. But then it has not been taught it widely. And I think these are things that we need to improve as we redesign our curriculum content, because these are critical things. But you only get a chance to talk about them in moments when you have children grouped for special issues like girl talks, boy talks, teaching children to be accommodative of other people, appreciating other people that come in. Because we talk about the refugee children that we bring in. At some point, I had an albino at the school, and they all didn't know what was happening. At first, they thought it was a white person, and then at the end of the day, realized, okay, I think he's not white, and they're stigmatized in our community. So we had to keep telling them it's just a white person. In Uganda, it's called a muzungu. So if you came down here, Scott, we would call you a muzungu. So kept telling them muzungu to just do away with the stigma that comes with you being an albino. Uh, but these are things that we constantly talk about lightly in small groupings, not because they're part and parcel of the curriculum that we teach. But I think as we develop, as we get changes, as we redesign our instructional materials, these are things that we might need to include as part of the day-to-day learning for all our learners in Uganda.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think what you talked about with like the compassion, the kind of bigger picture, it's like also the perspective taking that comes with global citizenship, or what does it mean to cultivate global citizens. The example that you brought about with the student, the refugee who was albino, I think, that does speak to like trying to get to that stage of like understanding more about that particular child's background, the understanding of like, yeah, why do we have certain terms as like, Muzumbu, right? The like, kind
Mm-hmm.
of designation as like white person. Um,
Yeah.
but then also these stigmas that society has about, well, for like albino people? Like, what is it that kind of sets them apart or makes them, in some ways outside of these more traditional frameworks? And I think that compassion and that kind of shared inquiry is really important, because this child, the refugee, has emotions, right? Has
Yeah.
this strong desire to understand their identity, their place in the world. And
Hmm.
when they are treated as something completely different, so something that does not belong, it
Hmm.
sends a really clear and very negative message, right? And
Hmm.
that's, as a compassionate educator like yourself, that's the last thing you want to happen. But
Exactly.
how to make all these other students understand and to go through that process, yeah, it does require lots of skills. Um, and so with this notion of like, okay, we want to implement something, in regards to like global citizenship, but no one's really talking about it in Uganda. And you said that you've heard about it, you've thought about it. What do you know, like, from where you heard this concept? Like, was there a particular moment or a particular like time you picked up something to read, or you heard about it from another person? But like, when did it first kind of enter into your thought? Like, maybe it
Uh,
wasn't specifically global citizenship, but a term related to that.
Something related to that from a friends group. One of my friends is doing his PhD down here, so he brought all his PhD school knowledge when I talked about studying at Harvard. So, deep down into the conversation, there are aspects of it that come through, and he mentioned it. I was like, okay, what is that? And that is when I was actually enticed to start reading about it and understanding what it really meant. I was like, global citizen. Okay, I would understand it as logically as a person, maybe traveling around the world, getting knowledge of different cultures. But then for me, the biggest about it is appreciating other people as different as they would come through to us, and appreciating that they will not look like us, but then they have same feelings. They get hurt, they get happy, and you're standing for them and every other person when you need to, and that is what makes you a global citizen, regardless of if a person is outside Uganda or within Uganda, outside your school setting or within your school setting.
Yeah, I love the way you articulated that, because I 100% agree that a global citizen should not just be that one traveler who has the passport and just kind of goes around and sees other cultures, and it's great. But there is this recognition that um, we we have different cultures around the world, right? And people don't all look the same. But at the same time, you say this very clearly, but they have emotions, they have feelings, they have their own personal experiences, and that actually is what connects everyone. That really
Mm-hmm.
speaks to our humanity that oftentimes we don't appreciate, we don't recognize. And in some ways, right? Like when the case of war, or persecution, discrimination, that is what is explicitly attacked. And so how to like bring out the humanity of others, and also to teach children to see that humanity, to value that, to celebrate that, to want to learn from that. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a lot more to say about global citizenship and making us more fully human, right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
that's that's kind of what I'm getting from what you're saying, and I really commend you for that, because it sounds like you only recently heard about it from your PhD friend, like about a
Mm-hmm.
year or so ago, and then suddenly you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, this makes sense. This is my understanding. And then of course, 2024 will have new developments at your school and continue to grow.
Exactly.
And it'll be even
Mm-hmm.
better than what it was in 2023, and definitely, 2015. But you've just been on
Yeah,
this incredible journey of learning. And, I'm sure your mom would be very, very proud.
she
Yeah.
is. She is
Yeah.
super proud.
That's
Yeah,
that's great. Do any of your sisters, by the way, go and teach at your school, or are they in different schools completely?
different schools, and two of them own schools.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah, very impressive. Yeah, very, very strong family background in education, that's for sure. Do
Yes,
you have
yes,
three
yeah.
children? Do your children say the same thing that you said when you were a kid? You're like, I will never be a teacher because, because children are too
My
demanding.
my two sons are very little. One is 3, one is 1.5. So they basically have no idea what is going on. But my biggest son is wants to be a statistician. I don't think he would ever cross my routes until when destiny pushes him there. But he's not walking this journey. I think he's as resistant as was. Uh, and when you talk about teaching, he laughs out loud. It's like, damn, nah, nah. So I understand him, and I wouldn't judge him because what was then has not really changed so much today. And until when we reconsider who a teacher is, reconsider their welfare, policy-wise, and the political will put there, I think then that is when we are going to entice children back into uh, being interested in the teaching profession.
Hmm. So
Mhm.
another question I have in regards to like the teaching profession, perception of teachers in Uganda. I mean, what you described about teachers in Uganda, it sounds the same like here in the US. But
Mhm.
would you say that part of your mission, right, as a school leader, as a school administrator, as an educator, is it to address that perception to kind of make teaching be valued more in a specific way? Or would you say it's something different? Like, how do you, what do you think about in terms of like a larger legacy that you're wishing to have, maybe on this school in particular, or in like a broader sense for education in Uganda? Like, what are you striving towards and building up towards? I'm curious.
Um, I personally come from a very humble background, and I fight every day to make sure I live a legacy that fights and that has fought for an inclusive access to education, first of all, to girls, to teenage mothers. I was once a teenage mother, so I know what I went through to even get to this place today. I know how stigmatized they get. And there are so many that would be probably what I am today if they didn't go through what they take them through, what our norms and values and traditions allow. And the poor, we're, we're one of the poorest countries around the world. And so many of our children miss school because the parents can't afford to pay school fees. And when you go to the government aided schools, because they're there, the quality of education is alarming. So at the school, we had founded a foundation called the Nandyona Foundation, because it was meant to, after COVID, is when I got the feeling of how do I even get involved to help the children from poor families. We had initially in the school, but the parents now cannot afford to pay the fees. So we used our own parents who could afford to give in a little token, and they contributed money to pay for these children that already are in the school, but the parents could not afford to pay. But it is so hard to sustain it. So at some point, you even hold the operations of the association because you can't keep begging them to keep, you know, giving. But there's thousands of children in Uganda that don't go to school, thousands of them, and there's so many that I would want personally to reach out to. The girls that are stuck in the villages, the girls that are on the streets because they got pregnant, and yet everybody can get pregnant because each of us has made a mistake at some point in life. But they're judged, they're stigmatized, they're disowned, and they end up losing track of what they're supposed to be just because they got pregnant when they were teenage. They're in the teenage age. So access and inclusive access to education, and even the resource envelope that is given to education, those are key things that I would want to actually follow through. before I retire. It's a legacy that I want to leave behind.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Mariah. It's just the passion that how you shared all of that. The fact that it's tied to your own story, right? From your humble backgrounds, and you mentioned that you yourself were also a teenage mother, and so you empathize so strongly
Mm,
with what many of your own students and the families are going through, and I just feel like, also as a school leader, the fact that you are there fighting for them and they also can look at you as this role model, right? That like, wow, like Mariah is so like she's glowing, and she's like doing the work and she's like, so wonderful and caring. So I feel like, you are recreating this wonderful community of support through the school, but the
mhm,
fact that, how you wish to see your legacy and like what you're working towards, everything just speaks to how your impact will continue to grow and make it so that, yes, this access to quality education, specifically for girls and for teenage mothers, will be
mhm,
there. And the fact that, these cases of, teenage mother going on to like being an incredible mother and getting education and finding work that they're passionate about. These are the success
mhm.
stories, including yourself, that are going to chip away, erode that stigma that has been for so long in place in Uganda. I think that's just, a wonderful light of hope for for everyone out there. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's very, very inspiring, and just keep doing it, You're doing amazing.
Yeah, we're warriors. A teenage mother is a warrior. So I sometimes don't even call myself a teenage mother. I call myself a warrior mother because I am a child raising a child. And somebody needs to come up and take care of these girls. They're babies taking care of babies.
Hmm.
Somebody needs to know where they are, how they feel, how they're supported, and what plans they have for their lives. Because if I did go back to school, I would be like one of them. I just want to be a candle that lights up and say, you can do it just like, yeah, just like me. It's not going to be an easy road,
Hmm.
but when you stay focused, you'll certainly get to where you want to get to.
Wow. I love that reframing of like teenage mother or warrior mother. I love that. I'm
Mm,
gonna carry that and use that moving forward. So thank you so much, Mariah. And
you're welcome.
we are coming to the end of our conversation. It's been such a lovely chat with you and just learning about your journey and all that you've been doing to really support your community. And I like to ask this question. It's more of like a book or movie recommendation, maybe something that you've read or watched recently. But is there anything like in light of our conversation that you would like to recommend for our listeners?
My friend that shared the term shared with me The Naturalized. It's a movie. I think it's beautiful. And if you got some time, you would watch it. It's about a group of people that were trying to put their lives together, people from different parts, share a similar quest, kind of, to citizenship. But I think it's beautiful in light of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I haven't seen it myself,
Hmm.
natural wise, but yeah, for everyone else, like definitely check it out. And that brings us to the conclusion. It's been so wonderful hearing your story, Mariah. Thank you so much for taking this time. It's really been such a joy to just be in your presence and hear this passion of yours to serve your students and this constant seeking spirit and this desire to learn more
Hmm.
and all to benefit and serve your community. So I wanted to give the last words. Any final thoughts or just kind of like a send off as we wrap up this conversation?
I want to say I'm honored to be here for giving me this platform to share who I am, but also to speak to everybody that would be listening, that the world can be a better place if we all chose to stand in for one another. It can be a better place.